Ben Raza, Jason Rouslin here on the awesomemode.com. PGA DFS live before lock show. I'm excited. I got chat here. 150 of you already in. I'm pumped. Chat, what is going on, everyone? Jason Rouslin with me here. It's been a while, my man. How are you?
It sure has, dude. It's been a while. It feels like it's been the longest off season we've had. I mean, I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now, and felt like we never got a break. And that was a break that none of us wanted. But you know what? We're back here, and that's all that matters.
That's right. That's all that matters. And we got a tournament. Listen, it wasn't what I thought we'd be coming back to, but we got Colonial. We've got Charles Schwab Challenge here. And we've got a field that I never would have imagined going to Colonial.
It's a major type field after, as you said, what feels like a fall swing layoff or a long layoff, and we got a major type field, which is just going to add to the element of craziness, right?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt about it. But we got a lot to get to. First things first.
Yeah.
Super Draft sticking with us through the break. They don't care. They're right back where they belong, sponsoring this golf show. We appreciate it. Jason, tell the people about Super Draft.
Yeah, so first off, they've got one of their biggest contests for golf that they've had yet. It's a $3,000 of first place, $15,000 guaranteed. Unless it's Super Draft, if you haven't played it, it is the future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience Super Draft's exclusive game mode multiplier, which Ben and I will be talking about later on in the show. You get to say goodbye to salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want to build to draft your very own dream team. We know who's starting my lineup, of course. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. Super Draft offers contests for all the major sports, so you can enjoy DFS all year round. Download it in the App Store or at superdraft.io. Super Draft, no limits and more winning. So I love having options when it comes to PGA DFS. When we first started, it just felt like, everybody would go to DraftKings. That's all that there would be. Now, getting Super Draft in here, getting FanDuel with some great contests. We're set up pretty well going into this, what feels like a major, like we just said it, but it's not a major. It's the Charles Schwab Challenge, right? I mean,
it's like a major. Though we're going to treat it like a major, no doubt about it, because that's what we're here to do. We've got a ton of things to get to. Let's start. Actually, you know what we're going to start with? Look at the bottom of your screen, everyone. We have a little deal for you. I want to get that out, and I'm going to mention it a couple times for the show, but we have a flash sale. A lot of you have come in already, and we're super pumped to have you. But if you have not, use the code BIRDIE to get access to Awesemo Plus PGA for $1. You're going to get it through the end of the week, through Sunday. Doesn't include Fantasy Cruncher, but you're going to be able to see those tools, see those ownership, see those projections. It's $1. Come on in. There's still time to make lineups. There's still time to talk about Slack. Jason, you can't beat that, can you?
$1. You get everything you just said. You're going to get the weekend stuff, which I'm sure there's going to be some big time round 2 contests, some big time round 4 contests. We've got some showdown content. So definitely a great deal. If you haven't joined us yet, a perfect time to do so. So let's talk about Colonial Country Club. One of the older courses on tour in the rotation. It has been at this tournament, which has changed names a bunch of times, for quite a while. It's a par 70, 7,200 yards. One of the hardest fairways to hit on tour. One of the shortest driving distances on tour. What do you make of all that?
I make that, I think that immediately people think, well, the Bombers, it's not that they can't compete. It's that they may not have the biggest advantage that they normally have on courses that really demand length. So it opens it up to guys that maybe are a little more methodical, that gain strokes off the tee, but with accuracy. We've seen that with the winners. Kisner's won here. Chris Kirk has won here. I mean, Justin Rose, but even Kevin Na last year. So it just opens the door to those type of players. And I think that's something we need to really take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly there are going to be courses, like the last tournament we actually got to finish, which was the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Certainly strokes gained off the tee, you can get around that course and just bomb the ball and gain a ton of strokes. You just can't do that here at Colonial. You look at the winners, you look at even the disbursement of strokes gained off the tee over the last 5 years, and it has certainly favored accuracy, no doubt about it. It's also nice. We're coming back to no weather problems. I repeat, no weather problems. We don't even have to look at tee time swaps. They are the exact same, maybe up to 13 miles per hour on the wind on each side. Not a big deal. That's got to be pretty comforting when you saw that, correct?
Oh, it's so nice. I mean, so many times we have to do this show and half the field is in a hurricane. How are we going to do this? We got a tee time stack. We don't have to deal with that. You can play this very straight up chat. If you guys are new to golf, sometimes one of the afternoon wave is playing in really bad wind or something. That's just not the case. This looks beautiful and it's all systems go.
Sure is. But we will talk about a few tee times at least as we do before we get into our topics over here. So a couple of tee times. I always mention the first group off. I just like to sometimes they can set the pace or even just look at them for first round leader bets. And there's two names right off the bat at 7:50 in the morning that are definitely going to be a little popular this week. And that's native Ryan Palmer, who's been quarantined around the golf course, and Brian Harman, who we got a little note through Twitter yesterday that he's been at the course for a couple of weeks. And they're joined by your boy, Bill Haas. Nice threesome going off the first hole at 7:50. Any of those guys interest you for a first round leader bet? Maybe you can save the DraftKings stuff for a little while, but we'll just stick on the first round leader bet for those three.
Yeah, I mean, going out that early is definitely can be super advantageous. You get the best conditions. So I think the obvious person is Ryan Palmer. He's the member there. He knows the course inside and out. Maybe he gets off to a hot start. We've got Brian Harman, great putter. More of a Bermuda guy, but that's all right. So those two, and then I don't think it'll be Bill Haas. I say if it is Bill Haas, you might get a little payoff from the DraftKings bonus that they're running because not many people are going to play my man. But I wouldn't be stunned to see both Palmer and Harman get off to quick starts.
Yeah, for sure, especially with the short game prowess from Harman, one of his best things. The other side, just want to mention, it's a twosome with J.J. Henry and Tom Hoagie. Interesting to see a twosome go out this early. It's just, I guess, how the field kind of just dispersed. But normally we don't see twosomes with a bunch of threesomes, huh?
Yeah, it's a little odd. Starting on the back's a little advantageous. You get more opportunities to kind of have a wraparound streak. Not that that matters, for non-showdown things, but I don't have a ton of interest in those guys. But there are some pairings early. I mean, the big guys don't get going for another hour or so. When you look at Dustin, Rose, and Bryson, and Reed, Leishman, and Graham McDowell. But yeah, I wouldn't be stunned to see some low numbers early.
Yeah, and in the PGA Tour, if you guys weren't following before, or if this is your first time doing it, they've got something called the Tourcast that's going to be debuting this week. Was supposed to be at the Players Championship, and what it is basically, if you guys remember the Masters app, they're going to show you every shot semi-live. It's basically live, and it's an enhanced shot tracker. So make sure you have the newest update on your PGA Tour app. They're going to be showing that. The first featured groups, if you are a subscriber to PGA Tour Live, which of course I have to be, you're going to get to see, as Ben mentioned, DJ, Justin Rose, Bryson DeChambeau, followed by Kevin Na, Gary Woodland, and Phil Mickelson. What a surprise. Phil Mickelson's in a featured group yet again. He's turning 50 and hopefully joining the Champions Tour soon, so maybe we won't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
Just come on. But some good ones. And then the afternoon is where the heavy hitters go. That's where McIlroy is playing with Brooks Koepka. And you got the spring break boys together yet again. The tour just decides to put Jordan Spieth in a prominent spot with Rory Mcilroy. I'm sorry, not with McIlroy, with Justin Thomas and Ricky Fowler. And the interesting part is there's going to be a bunch of celebrities doing the PGA Tour live cast. I don't know if you heard about this.
I have
Ben. So they have I think it's 15 different sets of commentators, and you can choose which one to listen to, and they're going to be commentating for about an hour and 15 minutes on the group that I just mentioned, the Spieth, Fowler, and Thomas group. And now there's also talk that Fowler's also going to be mic'd up. So just some interesting things going on that I wanted to bring up before we, of course, get into the players. And let's roll right in, Ben. Why don't we? And let's talk about the high-priced guys. And Rory McIlroy, man, he really is in a class of his own. We talked about that at the Players Championship when he was $500 or $600 above everybody. Here he's $800. What do you make of that?
Well, 1 sec. Yeah, we're working on the volume, fellas. Don't worry, we'll get that up and running. What did you say, Jason? Sorry, I was just talking about the sound. $800.
No. Yeah, so it's just Rory's really in a class of his own.
He is.
And I'm wondering if you are seeing it as, okay, he's $800 more, but it's helping keep ownership down, and I'm still going to play him, or no, he's getting to the point where he's not worth the $800 more than John.
I, I get that he's the best player in the world. I'm the biggest Rory fan around. There's no doubt about it. But when I built lineups today, I really had trouble starting with him. The money you can save by going to another premier player, whether it's Rom, JT, Bryson, or even going balanced, the back end of my rosters are just so much better because of that. So I really didn't get to much Rory, and that scares me because he is the best player in the world.
Yeah, he sure is. Now, did you happen to catch any of the interviews?
Not really. Who? Anyone stand out?
So I want to bring up John Rahm because, all right, so I don't know if you can quite tell, but when my hair gets long, it's pretty curly and can get pretty afro-y. John Rahm's hair is as big of an afro as I have seen on anybody since my junior year of high school. Not that means that he's not, practicing golf. It just kind of struck me that I've never seen, Rahm just look so disheveled as he did. Granted, he came in from playing 100-degree weather golf, but he it just looked a little disheveled to me. Not that has anything to do with him playing bad. Just wanted to see if you had seen that or not.
I saw a picture of him. The only guy I saw a little of was Brooks, and we can talk about him because it's certainly a guy that is going to be polarizing. He says he's in a million times better, is what he said. He's found it. He was getting it back at the Players. What did that do to you when you look at your Brooks exposure this week?
Oh, well, the thing about Brooks is that normally when he starts chirping, it's not typically talking about how good of a spot his game is. It's normally just talking about how he doesn't think anybody else can win the golf tournament except for him. I don't know. This is a little concerning to me, maybe only because normally I'm used to him showing up on a Tuesday being like, yeah, I just got here a half hour ago, man. I'm ready to roll. So I'm seeing kind of a different mantra, a different character than I've seen out of Brooks normally. What does that do to my exposure? I don't normally go above 10% on Brooks. It looks like that's where the field is going to be this week. I don't think I'm going to go above that much. I'd rather play Xander Schauffele in most scenarios, but that's probably because I like Xander a little better. In terms of the course, I mean, look, this course could suit Brooks Koepka really well. It could be a major type setup. He came second here, in 2018, I believe. So, yeah, if he ends up, being 10%, I may end up over the field on him.
It was just really tough. The opportunity cost of taking Brooks, he's either a very balanced first man in or a very aggressive second man in when you look at his price. So it was very awkward because I like Bryson quite a bit. I also like Ricky Fowler. I think this is a good course for him. He's got positive bent grass splits, can keep it in the fairway. Our projections, looked at so many guys in the 9K range, and I think Ricky may be getting lost a little bit. So I just didn't have that much room for Brooks or DJ. That could be dangerous, but I'm willing to roll the dice and hope that they don't burn me.
Yeah, I got a little theory on Fowler, and I don't know if it's true or not, or if it's going to become true or not. And my thought is, he just competed in that driving relief thing, with DJ and Matthew Wolff and Rory, and he looked pretty decent. In what I feel for this week is obviously with the Millionaire Maker, DraftKings making a big push in terms of their advertising. I feel like we are going to get a little bit more casual players than we normally do. And I feel like that tends to inflate Ricky's ownership a little bit more than normal just because he's been around for so long. He's also the namesake of what we saw a couple of weeks ago. So I know he's projected around 12. I think he's going to end up becoming one of the highest owned in this group of just the 9K range. I think we could see him not press Webb Simpson. I think Webb Simpson, the nemesis of this show, no doubt about it, is going to be 20% as people think he's going to be the safest play, right, based on everything we've seen. But I won't be playing him again. I'll be playing him maybe at 5%, maybe in one big lineup. But I'm going to wait for Webb Simpson to beat me yet again. How about you?
That's what we do on this show. We go against Webb Simpson, and then he usually punishes us. But I'm with you. That is my big stand of the week. I don't like Webb in this spot. I certainly understand how people are getting there. He's a world-class putter. His week is off the tee. That's mitigated. But I'm not going to pay the premium for him here when he's this chalky. I'll go to Bryson. I'll go to Ricky. I'll go to Patrick Reed, another Texas guy. He's a grinder. You know about Sunjay. You have unlimited options in the 9K range. I think I could get away with it. I think I'm going to be rewarded by my Webb fade this week.
I hope so. I'm right behind you in it. I just can't play a 20% owned Webb Simpson with all the guys you just mentioned. Long term, I think that Sung JM could be a better golfer. I won't say a much better golfer than Webb, but I think long term, Sung JM could really be one of the best golfers we see, especially with his work ethic. Man, he outworks everybody. He outplays. He certainly plays in way more events than most people. So I'm leaning Sung Jae in this realm as well. So as we move on to the 8K range, as we move down our list. But before we do, Ben, why don't you tell us a little about the promo that we have going on for us here at Osmo Plus?
Yeah, so we got some big things happening. I've mentioned this on a couple shows. We got a promo code Schwab, SCHWAB. That's going to get you 20% off the yearly PGA package. So you're going to get in the ropes for a full calendar year, projections, the tools, Slack chat. I held office hours today. Obviously, all of Jason's premium content, my premium content, Awesemo himself, dropping the knowledge. And then again, I'll just repeat it. It's on the screen. If you want to come in just for this week, just till Sunday, use the code Birdie for just $1. You get in, you can build some lineups, have some fun, and see what you think of the place. So we expect to see you guys in there. I'm very excited about it. But as we move down, this is where I think you can separate this week. There are so many plays in the 8K and 7K range. You obviously can't play all of them. And this is where we really need to prioritize.
Yeah, one thing before I move into there that I just saw a question from chat. If you're playing a cash lineup, and Ben and I, we've talked a bit about this, I don't play a traditional cash lineup. I play my best lineup, whatever I think my best lineup is, in my highest dollar and in my cash lineup and every other single contest that I'm playing in. But if you were playing a strict cash lineup, Ben, would Webb Simpson be a good focal point to start with?
Yes, I totally get merit for playing Webb in cash. I will be honest, though. I'm being so aggressive. I don't have Webb in cash, but I think that he is, even though I don't like him as a cash, even if it's a block, you can go there, no problem. I found a way to build around it just because there's more than 6 quality cash plays, no doubt about it. I totally get that reasoning, though. More of a cash play than a tournament if I had to pick one.
Yep, I agree there. Okay, so moving down now into the 8K, no doubt about it that the chalk is going to be rather spread out, but there's going to be a decent amount of guys that get into the 15% range, starting off with Tony Fina and Gary Woodland and Matt Kuchar. And then maybe the surprise of the week, it seems as though 90 days away from the PGA Tour and from PGA DFS, that people are willing to play Jordan Spieth at a relatively high clip again. This isn't me. Now, we're not talking about Jason Rouslin's tail of the tape. We're talking about some, I guess, 10% of other people's tail of the tape as well. You don't have to talk about Spieth if you don't want to, but I would be surprised if you didn't tell me that the ownership, when it was printed, didn't shock you a little bit.
It did. I can't believe that. So let me step back. Let me say this. The break, I think people are using as a positive, and then I think people are relying on course history even more. You go to his course history, and it's just straight fire. I think that's why we're getting this. I'd still be lying if I said I wasn't shocked, though. Unless you're entering on multiple accounts and driving this, I don't know what to say, because I thought you were the only person who were still on the Spieth bandwagon.
I literally thought I was riding that ship, that boat by myself, captaining it, whatever. And then all of a sudden, 90 days away, you get back to his home course and everybody's coming back. Well, maybe not everybody, but definitely filling up my my boat this week. I don't even know what to do. It's like I either have to go 40% to get my normal 3X or I fade him. But let's talk about Tony Finau. Tony Finau has been in 5 out of the last 7 millionaire maker lineups. Came in second here last year. What do you make of him? He seems like maybe a good spot to get some leverage on, only at 15% ownership.
Yeah, Tony Finau is always someone that's, I think on a macro level, very popular. People like Finau. They like to play him. This is an interesting spot. I don't love the course for him. I mean, he's someone that does lean heavily on the driver, but this isn't Bermuda. That's his Achilles heel. Really not a strong putter there. It's not a range I got too often, but when I did, I felt pretty comfortable with Finau. So we'll talk about the lower 8K range in a second here. I certainly have more exposure down there, but I have no problem with Finau pretty much in any format.
Yeah, same here. I think a cash lineup 8,700. If you are playing Webb in cash as well, I think those two guys to start your lineup is totally fine. You'll be able to build a balanced lineup that way. So Matt Kuchar, Marc Leishman, kind of in that same boat. Marc Leishman is a guy that I wouldn't mind for this course if he is putting well. This is the type of course that he can probably get away with missing a few fairways because the field only hits the fairways roughly 53% of the time here anyways. So Matt Kuchar, Marc Leishman, pick one, both, or neither.
Ah, boy. Nice. Volume is good. Look at Tom Kennedy
We're back.
the glass. This guy got a whole new career on his hands. I'm going to go with Kuchar. Another cash play, as you mentioned, but this is someone who is so consistent. Our ownership behind the paywall right now has him hovering north of 10%, but it's not egregious. That's a pretty good bargain on a guy I feel comfortable sails through the weekend, does what Kuchar does. That's a nice commodity with so many unknowns, someone that can just give you that rock solid performance and let your 5 other guys really separate.
Yeah, somebody's talking about Jade Roslin getting in 150 of 150 Spieth lineups. Love to see the good banter going back and forth. I will take my Spieth licks, but it looks like I won't be alone this week in doing so.
I won't be there, let me tell you. I got other priorities.
I totally understand. In that same range, we've got actually 4 or 5 international players, some couple of Euros that are going to be lower owned. Justin Rose might be one of those guys. I've seen you mention him before. Sounds like you might be playing him, but let me tell you one stat on Justin Rose that I was just shocked about when I looked. So my database goes back about a year and a half. He's played in about 16 events in that database of measured events, right? Majors are not measured events in this. He hasn't gained more than 2 total strokes in all 16 events, not once. So I'm concerned about the trajectory in which it's going. However, before I turn it back to you, I will say something happened, and it actually Matt Messing just mentioned it in our chat. Our chat is on top of it, man. We've got a good one. He switched clubs. He's done with Honma, where not Max Homa, Honma. And looks like he's back to TaylorMade, which is where he went on his toured run. So what do you make of that? Do you think the club change, as noisy as that is, we saw with Bubba Watson what happened when he went from Volvic back to Titleist, got right back on the winning streak. So is that a reason why you're playing Rose, or is it just that we've had some time to now get back to his normal?
A little of both. I thought he was, I don't want to say coming out of it, but the last time we saw him at API, he actually struck it well. He gained 3 strokes on the approach. He lost 6 strokes putting there. You mentioned he dropped those clubs back to business. This is a good spot for him. He's flat 9K. It's one of those situations that we talk about a lot on this show. If you don't buy here and he comes in, cracks the top 10, you missed it, because next week he will be a lot more popular and a lot pricier. So this is a buy early, possibly get burned. I'm doing the same thing. And I tell you right now, Jason Day, just please stay healthy. I don't want to see you at Disney World watching the NBA. I will be very upset if I see that.
I offered him my extra room here in my house.
Yeah. If you comp Jason Day, I'm going to have serious problems, because I really am buying early on him. I think he can we've seen time and time again, he's a great putter, a great scrambler. If he can mitigate his spraying off the tee and he's healthy and all indications he is, I love that price for him in the mid 8K range.
Yeah, I totally understand. So, but I found myself really trying to leverage the ownership in this mid 8K range. I made him a focal point of one of my articles earlier, and that's Shane Lowry. Shane Lowry showed us at the Open Championship his short game, it can be absolutely world-class. And if there's any course that he can miss the fairway on, it's this one and still compete at least. So I took the 5% ownership on Shane Lowry and said, I think I'm going to get at least 2 rounds out of him, maybe 4, hopefully 4. Whereas Jason Day, again, he is number 1, I believe, in strokes gained around the green this year. So if it turns into a scrambling fest, Jason Day could definitely compete here. I just don't know if we're getting Jason Day that's on the verge of a withdrawal, on the verge of retiring because of back problems, or if we get Jason Day of 2016 winning majors.
Yeah, best player in the world, potentially.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm willing to roll the dice there. Now, I have Fitzy right next to him. He's made 18 straight cuts. As consistent as they come, I don't mind him for cash. Then you've already mentioned Spieth and Louis are the YOLO plays. That range really has something for everybody. So I'm pretty comfortable in the 8K range. It's just about applying the right guy to the right lineup. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely. So as we move down into the 7K range, start off right away with the grinder, as he's got more callus and blisters on his hands than I would like to see out of somebody that I'm going to be rostering. But you can't deny this guy's ball striking prowess, and that's Viktor Hovland coming in at 7,900 this week. What do you make of that? Do you make – I don't know if you saw the picture that was kind of circulating Twitter a little bit with his hand. He's terrible around the greens. He had an interview over this quarantine where he talked about how bad he is scrambling. We know how small the greens are at Colonial and how hard they are to hit. Does that make you want to wait until next week to play him after a miscut?
I'm a little worried. I'm not, when you have an Achilles heel this drastic, his around the green game is one of the worst on tour right now. I know he's young, and I'm sure it'll get better. If it is baked out, and I expect it's supposed to be 100 plus degrees, I could see this becoming a little of a scramble fest. So when I talk about this, and it's something we preach behind the paywall, is try to correlate those lineups a little bit. If I play a lineup where I say, all right, I don't think it'll be a scramble fest, I like Hovland a lot more. Something like Jason Day type lineups, I'm not sure he makes a ton of sense, because if he's not hitting greens in regulation, I don't see how he gets through to the weekend.
Yep, totally agree there. Got another popular one of your plays, certainly maybe not one of my plays, right in that high 7 range. And this guy, I even had to play him before the break ended, and that's Danny Berger. But now Danny Berger's thrust into a major type field, and his price hasn't come down at all. It's not like he's, with Abraham Answer and the like down at 7,200. This guy's at 7,700 still in an elite field. Did that get you off of him this week, or are you just riding the Berger train?
So I at first glance, I thought that I could really get good leverage, but he's going to be popular. He is a notorious, and I don't want to harp too much on grass splits, but he is someone that has shown that Bermuda really is his home. He's a Florida guy. This is not Bermuda. So I'm a little skeptical. I did use him in cash. I think he makes for a solid cash target. But you have guys like Kisner. You have guys, as we work down to that mid 7K range. And Chad, I'll throw it to you a little bit. Of the guys at 7,400, who would you prefer? We've got Ryan Palmer. We've got Benny On. We've got Billy Horschel there. And we have a couple more. That, I think, is one of the defining questions of this slate. And that is one of the reasons I didn't have to get to a ton of Berger, because there's so many options at 7,400.
Yeah, there really is. And you mentioned quite a bit before the break how much Benny On's around the green game had improved, had become a strong point of his game. We know the putter is a real crutch in his game. He talks about it. He did some tutorials and showed how many putters he has. I mean, it's obviously in his head a little bit, but this guy at 7,400, certainly if he can have 2 good putting days, he's going to come in the top 10. He's just that quality everywhere else.
So Benny On, last time we saw him was March 8th, like most people at API. He gained 6.2 strokes with the approach. He gained 7.8 strokes total ball striking, but he lost 9.2 strokes putting. That is almost impossible. I don't
only Benny On.
I don't even know what to say to that. Like, he's making the weekend and he lost 9 strokes putting. So if that turns around, watch out. As many of you guys know, Ryan Palmer is a member at Colonial. He's played the course hundreds of times. I do think that helps. It is noisy, no doubt about it. But what do you do with a guy like that? Are you on Palmer this week?
Yeah, so Palmer and Harris English, priced right there with each other, seem to be the 2 chalkiest of those plays. I didn't fade Palmer fully, but I did fade him in all of my big important lineups. I went to guys that I like playing more, like Abraham Answer, who I think does really well on these old layout tracks, fast greens. We saw how good he played at the President's Cup. I think that it just seems like we're going to get probably double the ownership, something in the 13 to 6.5 or 7 range. So I went to Answer on both those cases against English and against Palmer. And I decided to go to Benny On for the most part over those 2 guys. Ryan Palmer's course history, even being a member, he's got 2 top 10s and 3 basically missed cuts. So it's so topsy-turvy. Again, that's not the end-all, be-all this week. I know he's been practicing at the course. So that's why it's not a full fade, but it's basically a full fade for Harris English for me. The guy just keeps becoming popular. How about you for Harris English? Are you in this week?
I am completely out. He was doing it all around the green and putting. I'm not saying can he replicate that? Obviously, he's been doing it, but that is really fluky. That's high variance. So until his ball striking returns, we have him projected to be popular. I think he's going to be popular. I'm not playing north of 10% Harris English when I have 5-6 other pivots. And that's really my stand. Again, similar to Webb, it's not that I hate to play in a vacuum, but evaluating against the guys next to him, I didn't get there.
Totally agree. We had just a couple more questions as I'm rounding back. We didn't talk about Colin Morikawa, who, I love the kid. I think he's a superstar in the waiting. 9,100 this week, though. He got that Sung Jae Im price bump, but we haven't seen the big win yet, right? I mean, when I say big win, he won the Barracuda, which is decent, but we haven't seen that top 3 really since then. The strokes gained of the approach, maybe the best in the world right now, or one of the best. Doesn't drive the ball far, so maybe this course really does set up well for him. What are you doing with Morikawa, and would you play him in cash? For me, definite cash play. He hasn't missed a cut on tour, so it's almost a lock.
So 21 straight made cuts to start. I think he's very cash viable. Again, in tournaments, you got Justin Rose right there. You've got Patrick Reed right there. You've got Sungjae right there. I'm more comfortable with them. I've seen their body of work. I trust them more. I pivoted off Morikawa.
Fair enough. I think it's a spot where normally, if we go back just to the players, right, which is not as this field is not quite as strong as the Players Championship field, but Morikawa was priced at 8,000 and Spieth was priced at 7,900. Here, Spieth is at 8,000 and Morikawa is at 9,100. So I'm just seeing a little bit of a difference. I'm not trying to bring up Spieth again. It was just a perfect example of saying, hey, he didn't move in price, but Morikawa got the $1,100 price bump. Just something to take into consideration. Somebody mentioned Danny McCarthy really quickly. Danny McCarthy is, the min price on FanDuel. I used him there because he's mid price. He's a lights out putter. He thinks he's the best putter in the world right now. That could really help him here and get through the weekend. So just a quick note on McCarthy before we move on. But that is a pretty good transition into our 6K range before we get to the Make the Cut segment. 6K range, we're going to look for some deep sleepers here and some value picks. So I'll let you start it off down here.
Okay. I mean, you know where I go. I'm going to Bud Cauley, 6,800. Come on now. Guys coming off a string of made cuts, can get hot with the irons. Another good scrambler. Chad, as you can see, I'm overweighting around the green this week. I think that's something that you can get some leverage against the public. And you don't need to get so super low. I didn't jam up top, so I rounded out my lineups really nicely with a guy in the high 6s.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There's a couple of guys in that high 6s. Harold Varner III, who was on Scott Van Pelt last night chatting about all of the protests going on and of course, the George Floyd thing, which the PGA Tour is reserving that tee time, 8:46 tomorrow morning, which is a nice gesture by them. A couple of more guys in that high 6s, though, that I love. And you know the next guy that I'm talking about, Andrew Putnam. And this guy, he can putt, he can chip, he can't do off the tee. He can't. I've seen a couple of other guys mentioned. Are you playing him at all, or is that going to be me just yet again by myself?
That's you. This guy, I cannot figure out. I look at his stats. I say it can't be replicated. Oh, it's replicated. He is what he is. He's a weak off the tee player, and he's a very, very good iron and putter. That fits this course. So I get the large field GPP. You want to throw him in millies and stuff. I totally see it. I just didn't need to go down this low that often. So when I did, I moved my shares to Bud Cauley. I think Jimmy Walker's a very deep sleeper if you're looking for someone, he's a Texas guy. He has some upside. I just worry about the floor with a guy like that, very live to still miss a cut. Definitely.
Speaking of missing cuts, this guy hasn't missed a cut in a little bit. I'm sure you talked about him on your Tuesday show with Timmy Frank there. Brendan Todd, 6,800, back down to value price. Good putter, good wedge player, doesn't hit the ball long, seems like a good fit.
Not bad. Yeah, I mean, listen, we saw maybe the most ungodly run of golf by him earlier. He strung together wins. Seemed like he was done. This is a player, and the profile is good. He's a crafty scrambler, good putter. You could do worse here. Again, I don't think you need to force 3 or 4 of these guys in lineups, but if you have a good core up top and you're looking for 2v2s, this is an area I think that you can hit and get some leverage.
For sure. All right, so now we're going to move into our second to last segment, which is called Make the Cut, where it's more rapid fire than anything else. We'll maybe say a few words about each guy. But before we do, wanted to mention the podcast giveaway that we got going on as part of the Awesemo Podcast Plus series. All you got to do is go listen to one of them, give us a 5-star review, and then leave your Awesemo username or Twitter handle in the comments review section, and you'll be entered to win an Awesemo Plus weekly pass coming up on Friday. So that's when the drawing will be. So as we move into the Make the Cut, again, this is more rapid fire than anything else. We're going to cover most of the guys that we haven't covered. If I double up on some, I apologize. But first off, Max Homa and Joel Damon. These guys just are kind of tied together. They battled together for Max Homa's win. They're priced together. Are they going to play the weekend?
I'm going to split them. The bucket hat man. Joel Damon gets through. We saw him on the Outlaw Tour look good. I just think his game fits. Max Homa, California guy. I think we see some regression here.
Okay. Joaquin the Dream Neiman and Matthew Wolff, two young studs. Did they play the weekend here at Colonial?
Ooh, I'm interested to see what you say on this one. I'm going to split them again. Neiman gets through. The Wolf man. The driver can't save him here. He slams the trunk.
Wolff, watching him at the driving relief thing, I don't know where his game really is. You know, he came through a little bit towards the end. But I think I'm going to go with both of them missing here. I don't know. Neiman's run of good putting seemed to come to an end. But this next guy came out of nowhere. Speaking of putting, I'm going to buck this. Christian Benzenhout.
Oh boy.
The 26-year-old from South Africa. Good story. Don't get me wrong. Good story. You know, drank rat poison when he was 2 and now has a lifelong stutter. Crazy story. And he just keeps getting better. Is he going to play the weekend here on the OWGR exemption?
I'm rooting for him. He's a good player. We're going to see more of him, but no, I think this is a tough spot for him. We've seen some guys come over. Takes a little to get acclimated. Lucas Bjerregaard comes to mind where he had some flashes and then he struggled.
Yeah, he sure did. Trust me, I went through those struggles, and I pretty much went through everything with Lucas Bjerregaard. Speaking of Lucas Bjerregaard and Christian Benzenhout, another South African that I love to play from time to time. No secret this week, or no difference this week, I should say, and that's EVR, Eric Van Rooyen. Either he's going to ruin your lineups or he's going to be in the top 10. Where do you have him playing this week?
Yeah, I think he does get through. He's a good player. We've seen him at WGCs. No core play by any stretch for me, but at 7,100, I totally get going to EVR.
Okay, yeah, I'm aligned with you there. He's actually more of a core play for me than normal. Okay, sticking on the international theme, Matt Wallace was finally starting to get it, at least somewhat back. The guy's ranked in the top 50 in the world, for criminy sakes. Down at 6,600, is he use his terrible off the tee game but good short game to get through this weekend?
So the price keeps him in contention to be in lineups, but I don't think he's going to get there. He has really struggled. I get he's shown up in majors, but no, he does not make the cut.
Okay, two putting extraordinaires next, JT Poston and Andrew Putnam.
Poston's going to get through. He played well at the Sea Island tournament prepping for this. He's a very good putter. I'll let Putnam get through to the weekend for you. I'll be a nice guy. I don't think he does much, but I can say that he can make the weekend, sure.
Okay. All right, good. That's what I need out of him at this point. Going down, Russell Knox and Corey Connors. Two real interesting plays. Corey Connors' price has come down significantly. He's won in Texas before. What do you got on those two?
I'll say this right before I give my Knox take. Chat, pump up those likes for us. We got 325 in here, only 68 likes. Let's see if we can get that north of 100. We really appreciate you guys stopping by for the first tournament. And I got good news for the Knox truthers. He's going to play better this week. I'm using him. Great short game. When he gets going on courses that don't demand length, he can get crafty. I think we see a resurgence. He had a string of bad missed cuts early in the year. He's going to make the weekend here.
Yeah, I do think he makes the weekend as well.
Knox.
Is somebody trying to phonetically spell that Christian guy's name? Baze Den Hoot.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad actually. Okay, I can definitely go with that. How about we're just gonna go on the theme of internationals. The Swede Alex Noren. He has had a worse dive down the OWGR than Spieth has. Is it going to stop this week, or is it going to continue?
It's going to continue. His game is just lost for me. I'm a Noren fan. I just don't know what to make of him. The approaches are all over the map, and when you can't do that, I don't know how you really back a guy.
Yeah, I totally understand. Okay, going down, Lando Griffin has had some great starts earlier in this year. Do we get him through this week?
Yeah, I think he's a middling play. I prefer Bud Cauley, but these are the type of guys, chat. You know, I know you guys have thrown out a ton of names. They're nothing more than flyers to me. Atlanta would fit that category.
Yep, for sure. Okay, so I know this is going to be a favorite of one of the members in the chat here. Definitely a favorite of mine, since he's the reason that I had my first big win in PGA DFS. I'm talking about Brian Stewart. Hasn't missed a cut here since 2015. Does he keep that track or that stat going?
He's really a chat favorite. People love that guy. I get it. I get that he's a crazy good putter. I'm gonna pass to you though. I don't see it. Can you make a case for your boy?
Yeah, I think that just because most people aren't in their top form because they haven't played in so long, whereas Brian Stewart's game is not going to lose for him. He hits the ball 285. That's not going to change. He hits it near the green and gets up and down, and that's kind of his game. So, yeah, I could see him grinding out another 45th place finish and another paycheck this week. I don't see him getting into the top 30 or top 25, but I can see him getting through the weekend. Windham Clark. What do you say about Windham Clark?
Yeah, chat was asking about him before. Listen, I see the merit. He's a bad off the tee player, can get crazy hot with the irons and putting. So I see the formula. He's just so inconsistent, and you're going to get him at 1%. Our ownership has minuscule percentage on him, which is good. You don't need a lot of leverage, but I don't know how you really back him in anything besides a large field GPP.
Andy Ogletree.
That sounds like a made-up person, so it's a lot harder for me to speak about him. He's the kid from Georgia Tech. Yeah, are you kidding me? I wouldn't know Andy Ogletree if he came up to me and said, "I'm Andy Ogletree. I'm the kid from Georgia Tech." Who is that? Go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, reigning U.S. amateur champion. Obviously, the U.S. Am is the one of the biggest amateur events that you can win. He just turned pro. This is his first pro tournament. He's gonna try and do things about the Colin Morikawa way, try to get himself some status. It's the only way really to get on the PGA Tour right now, because the Korn Ferry is not graduating this year into the PGA Tour because of the hiatus. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I love going down this path. I talked about it way early in the week. It can find you guys like Colin Morikawa, like Patrick, before they come out. But it can also lead you down the paths like Norman Jong and Zhang Do, who haven't made a cut ever, and I still played every week. So be careful with it. But, yeah, Andy Ogletree, I don't know that I necessarily see him getting to the weekend, but I think if he does make the weekend, yeah, he can make a little noise. You know, Jordan Spieth said in his press conference this week, he expects the winning score to be close to Justin Rose's, which was -20. But the normal winning score here, I know it's a little crazy. The normal winning score here is in the low teens, -10, -12. That's when I've found these college kids able to somewhat compete. I remember Brandon Thornberry at the FedEx St. Jude a couple of years ago. I think that winning score was like -8. He was second or third. So if Ogletree is as good as maybe he's meant to be winning that USAM, if the winning score is -10, maybe he can get himself into the top 25. I think this is he bit off a little bit more than he can chew with the fact that this field is as good as it is. It wasn't supposed to be this good, but because of what happened, it is. And I think that really hurts his chances.
Fair enough. I got one last guy for you, and then we'll talk a little super draft because they got some big things going on. What do you make of RCB? 6,900. I think that's a pretty playable price.
Yeah. Here's a guy that I definitely tried to chase through that Florida swing. He got stuck here. He's a really interesting story. I don't know if you read up on it at all, Ben. They had it out. He got stuck here after the Players. He couldn't get home to Spain where he's from. So he's been living out of Airbnbs for the last 2.5, 3 months around the Orlando area, playing with, some of the guys. He had most of his family here, but not all of his family. So it's been an interesting time for him. Obviously, the fact that he's stuck here and can't go home to Spain, which had a huge problem with COVID, maybe I'm honestly not sure where to make of his game. You got guys like Charles Howell, also priced right there, seems cheap. So I don't know. I'm a little nervous to go into these guys that seem cheap, and maybe it's a little bit of a value trap.
Fair enough. That's a fair point.
Yeah. Matt, he has been Matt from our chat, been living like him. Sung J.M. was hanging out at Saddlebrook Resort about a half hour from me for the last 3 months. And somehow he ended up there practicing every day. I'm sure he probably played 36 holes every day. I know Sung J. All right, so yeah, let's move on to our last segment here, where we talk about Super Draft, and Super Draft. We thank them again, sponsored for our show, and they've got this great mode that we mentioned in the read that's called the multiplier. Now, you can also predict a little bit of ownership in this multiplier. And simply what it is each golfer has a unique identifier that determines what their multiplier is. And for example, this week, Brian Harman at 1.6x seems to me that he'll be an anchor of a lot of people's lineups that play it that way. So I like to look at pivots off of him, somebody like Nate Lashley at 1.6x. And hey, even the guy, Andy Ogletree, that we just mentioned, if you want to play him, he's 1.75x on Super Draft. So if you were going to play him or play somebody like that, would you look for the multiplier in this regard to try and get some leverage there?
Yeah, I think this is something that can be applied certainly to all the sites. It's obvious. There's so many unknowns this week. We don't exactly know where the top end guys are. So I wouldn't mind to open it up. When you're talking about 1.6x, those multipliers are guaranteed. So if you strike lightning in a bottle with a couple of those guys, you're going to be at a huge advantage. So we've got Harman. Bud Cauley is down there as well. We still have to give our hot takes after this.
Oh, yeah.
Bud Cauley might be in my hot take, just a spoiler alert. So I don't mind opening it up. Obviously, I don't want 6 guys there, Jason, and I'm sure you'll agree. There's a couple of low-end, top-end players, 1.1 types that I still feel comfortable with.
Certainly, Colin Morikawa is at 1.25, and as you can see, my glasses kept sliding down my face. It's hot and muggy in Florida, so all the moisture is just I'm crying with excitement too. So it's kind of helping too. Luckily, I can still see. I'm not blind, but just wanted to tell you guys about that. So yeah, I like Colin Morikawa at 1.3x. He's one guy that I highlighted there. If you're really tempted to go that way, an ownership play. Eric Van Rooyen at 1.25x. No one is going to want to own him there. He's so much cheaper on the other sites. So I thought for a direct pivot, if you think he's going to top 5 or top 10 at 1.25x in a top 10 scenario at very low ownership, I think that might be a really good pivot. Just got asked about Kevin Tway. We can talk about Kevin Tway. He's a 1.6x multiplier as well on Super Draft. What do you make about Kevin Tway on Super Draft or at all in general? He's ends up being low owned almost all the
So
time.
he's an aggressive driver of the ball, which is kind of counterintuitive to Colonial, but I don't mind if he clubs down, which he certainly will. It's just a matter of, like most of these guys, can he make some putts? He's not someone I think we have seen him win. This is not a nobody. He's popped on tour before. It's just a price range that's pretty barren. So you have him, you have Windham Clark. Jimmy Walker would probably be the guy if I had to choose.
Yeah. You mentioned Jimmy Walker. Certainly, he's a guy that we saw obviously win the PGA Championship, then fell off quite a bit because he had Lyme disease, and that was really affecting him.
It'll get you.
Yeah, it certainly will. I know all about that. That's for sure. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to go back to Jimmy Walker. I do like Brian Stewart at 6,200 as well. Quick couple notes on FanDuel. Denny McCarthy, I already mentioned his min price, but also so is Doc Redmond. This guy. Speaking of U.S. amateur champions, right? I mean, Doc Redmond fits that boat as well. We've seen him get his card the hard way. So maybe Andy Ogletree will actually follow in his tune. So a couple more guys. If you had to pick a top guy on Super Draft with the multipliers the way they are, Rahm and McIlroy are 1x. Would you pick one of them, or would you go a little bit further down towards the Morikawa range?
I think I'd go down just a little bit. I mean, honestly, even Bryson at 1.1, you're getting a little, that's a tenth. It matters. It adds up quickly. Ricky 1.15. So as good as Rahm and Rory are, I wouldn't fault anyone for going there. I think there's still very playable guys. A little down, you save, and you get a little multiplier.
Yeah, totally agree. So what I'm going to do here, so we always give our hot takes to end the show. We've got to. But before we do, I'm going to just scroll back a little bit. We've got a couple of questions that I got from chat. And this is a perfect time if you haven't gotten your questions in, whether you're in our Slack chat or you're in the YouTube chat here, fire them away and we will certainly get to them. One guy that we didn't talk about that you and I definitely liked, Harry Higgs. What about our boy Harry Higgs? Are you playing him this week?
Rouslin, you're killing me. Your microphone, you just turned into the guy.
Oh, I did it.
I can't. Fix your microphone before I lose it on the stroke. But I do like Harry Higgs.
We're good. I saw you guys started to laugh. I'm like, Harry Higgs isn't that funny. I mean, what's going on here? We're good. Robo Voice is gone. I'm back. Harry Higgs, let's talk about him before Robo Voice.
Again, another really aggressive driver of the ball. I don't think he has the right temperament in the sense of his play for Colonial, but this is a guy who can purely score. We talk all the time, the importance of outscoring your placement. Harry Higgs is at the top of that list. He scores like a wild man. So if you get him through the cut, you get paid off in a big way.
I can't believe that happened. We were just talking about that before. All right. Coolers always gives us a super egregious list, but this one's actually not as bad. We touched on Alex Norton. How about Brandon Grace, Ches Reavie, Rory Sabatini, Kevin Streelman? Any of those four interest you?
The only one of the four, I think that Ches you can make a case for. He is someone that par 70, I think fits the game. He's more of a desert track guy, but I think that could translate a little bit. None of them are even close to sniffing my core. But Ches Reavie as a GPP flyer, I get the merit there.
Okay, how about the grandstands and no fans? Who does it hurt besides Spieth?
Yeah, that's a good question from chat, from Matt. I think it hurts drivers that spray because a lot of shots hit people. I'm not saying on the fly, but even a rollout. These things could go forever now. Maybe they get caught and you could have lost balls. I worry a little bit about that. So for me, it really hurts erratic drivers of the ball.
Yeah, I'm not quite buying into it. And sometimes on these pro courses that 20 yards off the fairway is better than 10 yards off the fairway because they don't try and grow it out. They just cut it because they don't expect people to be there. So I'm not buying it too much being a factor this week. I think maybe the only thing that'll be a factor is golfers that draw emotion from the crowd coming down the stretch to win the tournament. I think it may be a little bit harder to get that extra juice or to maybe get that extra push. Maybe that'll be the only thing that I see coming in. But okay, Pat Perez.
So it's funny, both Perez's different reasons, but I have kind of minimal interest. 6,500 for Pat Perez is actually a pretty good price. Victor Perez is just someone I don't have information on. You know, he's a French guy, plays in Europe mostly. I'm going to wait and see. I think you're getting a little too cute if you go there, unless you have a line that you trust. I don't see anything that indicates that he's ready to pop.
I agree. Denny McCarthy, we've covered a couple of times. Ben is kind of out on. I'm in on FanDuel at 7,000. Good putter. Yeah, I'll take it. Are we surprised about the Millionaire Maker 50,000 entries? No, that'll fit. No problem. I'd be more worried, or not worried, but the $7 on FanDuel, maybe that doesn't fill, but the Millionaire Maker definitely fills. Okay, let's see what else. I think it might be.
You know what time it is? It's hot take time, chat. I'm gonna ask one more time for a couple likes here. Pump it up. I am gonna start a new streak. I had a bad stretch of really bad hot takes to close out these shows, but me and Jason, we've been refining our process. Yeah. We're gonna go 2-0 tonight. I can feel it. What do you think?
Well, I ruined Tommy Fleetwood's career, so
I think he retired. It's just over.
He's done. So he's gonna win a PGA Tour tournament for April. Obviously, it didn't come. He's now done. He's retired from golf. So I don't think I can get any worse.
I'm going first. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm not getting crazy hot. We're going to warm up to it. Bud Cauley, top 10 this week. He can get in contention. He's going to make some putts. He just needs to limit the spraying off the tee. But if you're looking for a guy sub 7K, I think he is your best shot for someone to really make some noise.
Man, where did his around the green game just all of a sudden go from terrible to good?
I know.
It did. It absolutely, there's no doubt about it. Year over year, it changed dramatically. So, yeah, I don't think that's a bad call at all. All right. I'm not gonna do it because it's not the fun play to do this week. So I'm going to go to Abraham Answer.
Okay.
And these old tracks, I remember the Northern Trust that was held out in New Jersey. He played well there. He played well a couple of other places. So top 10, Abraham Answer. Find some fairways, make some putts. Probably should get some good odds. I think it's about 8-1 on the top 10.
I like it.
Not taky enough. I mean,
no, that's good.
Tree, but I don't. It's the field is too strong for me to go there, so I'll stick with Abraham Answer.
No, we can't get too crazy. We save the really insane hot takes. If you want insane hot takes, chat, 12 o'clock tomorrow, me, Dave Lochran, and Josh Engelman breaking down all things on the morning show. That's where you see extreme.
Are you going to be talking golf a little bit? I hope
we're gonna talk some golf in there. I'm gonna put definitely. But any final thoughts before we bounce on out of here, Jason?
Enjoy that there's the Millionaire Maker. I think it's almost all but guaranteed that Tiger Woods is back next week at the RBC Heritage. It's a great golf course, a fun week. I don't know if we're going to see another Millionaire Maker, but I'm sure the contest will be big. Make sure we check out Super Draft, $3,000 to first place using that multiplier. It's really great to be back. It's going to be like Christmas morning tomorrow morning. Enjoy the best golfers in the world competing again. It's been over, close to 90 days, and thankful that we get it back. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And it's really cool to see a lot of people who aren't PGA DFS regulars giving it a shot. I really think you're going to enjoy it. So on that note, everyone, again, thanks for hitting that like button. Sign up for these promos. Schwab, 20% off, get you in the door for a full year, or the flash sale Birdie, get you until Sunday for $1. You get to see a little sneak peek of what we got behind the paywall. So on that note, we'll be out of here same time, same place next week for the RBC Heritage, and we'll talk to you guys then. Good luck, everyone.